Sonic Mega Drive the next level. Already the story is disappointing because the next area we see is yet another ice area. Like Ice Cap Zone and Ice Mountain and an Ice Cap from the C1. At least I'm seeing a city street light, since when do we see those in Sonic levels? Well, except for Sonic Advance 3's first level, wasn't that on a road? And what's with that purple ball thing? Anyways, the story's gonna have an uphill battle trying to be actually interesting if it starts out with an area like this. It already ran out of ideas by the flower area. This arc could have looked fantastic if every area was unique. So the purple thing is a robot that's trying to throw hard snowflakes at the heroes. Oh yeah, because there's totally a chance of Sonic getting hit. Maybe it's built with the hopes that it'll attack someone other than Sonic. Knuckles and Amy destroy it with none of them getting hit. And Sonic, of course, complains that he could have beaten it on his own. So what was the point? That was such a short action scene with barely anything happening. This is one paragraph. This is the first time we've seen them in this area, and already they're fighting the boss, which is really an admission that the writer has no new ideas. Either that or we'll see the level later, which is more original than the boss being at the end. But is it just going to be another Ice Cap Zone again? Or Robotnik Winter? And Sonic easily tricks the boasting Knuckles into calling himself a doofus. He was never portrayed like this in the reboot before. At least this has the excuse of Knuckles was younger back then, and isn't like that anymore. But the point is that at this point in the franchise, bullying Knuckles like this is just kicking a dead horse. Hasn't he been humiliated enough? What was he thinking doing this again? It's not funny, I just feel bad for him. Knuckles did work when he was telling Sonic that he did it better. So he could be interesting as a rival that's actually better than Sonic sometimes. So Sonic would have to struggle and earn respect instead of always being the greatest by default. At that point, I might prefer it if Amy was the one getting fooled by Eggman. It might be better because it used her idealism from the adventure games and take her down a peg in a way other than her being rejected by Sonic, which isn't funny either. I just feel bad for her too. The full extent of their traveling through the level was basically this one panel where we saw a Loop-de-Loop again and a Badnik again. Was that seriously it? What was the point of that? Sonic didn't even get trapped in Ice Block. The whole thing could have taken place in Green Hill Zone for all it mattered. Already they see Eggman again, who at least takes advantage of the ice theme by using a snowman mecha. It shows Eggman as inspired when he cares enough to make themed robots based on where they are, which isn't the case with stuff like Egg Pawns and Swap Bots. At least not with their exterior designs. A snowball gets dodged, which I assume has ice and hard snow in it. Being the smart one, Tails tells everyone to attack the bottom snowball. Well, that was a no-brainer. Weren't they gonna do that anyways because it's the closest to them? And yet Sonic looks at him confused. It takes advantage of it being a snowman because the bottom part being destroyed gives them access to the upper areas. But any giant robot could have that. Hey, wouldn't it have been cool if Tails used the ray gun he invented to melt some of the snowman? Or Knuckles used his fire generating attacks to do it? That'd show off their unique capabilities more. Instead, I guess they'll attack it the boring way. The boss gets destroyed immediately by Sonic's friends. And Eggman flies away as Sonic looks bored because of them. Just like me. What is the narrative purpose of showing boss fights more than once if there's no tension at all and they just get destroyed immediately? Making them no different than a regular Badnik. I already knew that Sonic's friends were good at fighting. Then the heroes go through a haunted zone and Amy's scared of ghosts. Am I expected to be impressed by this? There's been haunted levels in Sonic before. Like Hang Castle and the haunted ship. So another waste of an area. How am I expected to be not bored by a lack of creative new ideas? The story has been basically a void of nothingness so far. I've seen ghosts in Sandopolis. Because Knuckles says this place is like a maze, Sonic gladly takes an excuse to ditch them to have fun on his own, saying they'd cover more ground if they split up. I don't blame him. But seriously, Sonic Mania looks like a creative masterpiece compared to this adventure. We never saw a place like Studiopolis or the printing press level before. And I don't think Frontier Canyon had a Wild West bar in its background, at least. I've already seen Pumpkin Hill. A haunted maze is a bit more unique, but I already saw Sonic go through a maze in Sonic the Comic, where there was a Minotaur. After a boring page with Sonic alone that you might as well skip, Sonic shows faith in his friends just for them to go from confident to screaming at a giant robot. Tails gets hit in the face with fire, and Knuckles gets shocked because he can't hit it when it's charged up. And Tails at least has burns showing some consequences afterwards, that's impressive. But why did the artist not show him losing rings this time? Because he had to have rings to be barely injured from that and survive it. So Amy destroys the robot, and more panels than should exist considering it was just one hit. It was nice of not just Tails, but also Knuckles to congratulate her, with Knuckles saying, "Nice work, kid." It'll always be weird thinking of Amy as a kid though. You'd never know looking at modern Amy that she's meant to be 12, meaning not old enough to date Sonic. I don't know why they didn't increase it by one measly year. Wow, I am bored. So the fight ends much earlier than it should have considering how much trouble it put them through. The Sonic X comic was way better action scenes than this, possibly better than the entire franchise. The action went on way longer and the heroes were struggling until the end. There's a rumble and Knuckles puts his hand on the ground and says that this didn't feel like a natural tremor, knowing that because he has an earthbending sense. And yet he can't literally earthbend because that'd be too interesting and badass. Amy considerately hopes Sonic's okay. At least her not assuming he'll be fine is justified right now because this is only her second time with Sonic. But it still flies in the face of her being Sonic's fangirl, which is a personality I've grown fond of because it's full of appreciation and optimism, and almost no other character has that specific role. Making Amy grow out of that did nothing but make her less likable from being mean to the wrong people, and less original because she became an imitation of Sally, so it missed the point of Amy. Yep, definitely bored. I must have said this stuff before. How repetitive is it to have so many easily destroyed boss fights, and the change in scenery barely affects the plot? So far the heroes haven't been bothered by ghosts yet. So exactly. They might as well have not left the ice area. This isn't Sonic Boom anymore where it's trying to be as mundane and realistic as possible. So what is Flynn's obsession with not having ghosts in the ghost areas? There was Pumpkin Hill and now this. It's unexpected, but that doesn't make it good, it makes it boring. Although at least I don't have to question how ghosts are there. Eggman threatens Sonic with a drilling machine. At least here, it's underground in a cave, so he could be using it for mining and trying to collapse the ceiling or floor on Sonic. Oh, but instead of getting to do that, his machine breaks because he drives into a boulder, which you'd think his drill would be cool enough to drive through, and which he should have seen coming and avoided because people typically have eyes in the front of their heads. At least this seems new. If he had repeated the Mystic Cave Zone boss, that would have been uncreative. But at least try to be tense, instead of making a fool of Eggman. Though Archie Eggman deserves all the humiliation he can get. He's in charge of most of the world, so he deserves to be taken down a peg. It just doesn't feel as satisfying because he looks like classic Eggman, who's always a joke. Then Eggman flies away with Sonic just standing there instead of spin attacking the Eggmobile. So that's bullshit to force him to fight him again. And Sonic inexplicably forgets that he's alone and says that was hilarious and asks if his friends saw that, which gets him to miss them. That's nice, but confusing since he clearly hated having tag-alongs and did nothing but insult them the whole arc. This never happened in any of the games, and the games happened in the reboot. Apparently he missed his friends every time he went on an adventure alone. This moment worked a lot better in Sonic Lost World because the silence lasted longer and Sonic was worried that his friends had died. Sonic quickly reassures himself that this is what he wanted and his friends will catch up soon enough. How does he think they'll catch up to him when Tails is forced to go slow because of Amy? Maybe he's justified in thinking this because Eggman keeps forcing him to stay in one small area fighting him. Tails is being a better fangirl than Amy is because he has to tell Amy that Sonic is unstoppable. Will Amy waste my time in comic space worried that he was killed by a cave-in? Then Knuckles deludes himself into hoping that they'll get somewhere before Sonic. Again, I wish he explained that he thinks this is possible because Eggman could have delayed him. Well, it's sweet that Knuckles and Amy are getting along the whole time instead of arguing and insulting each other, like children. If this was Sonic X, they'd be at each other's throats the whole time. But instead they're better friends with each other than with Sonic. And I'm glad they didn't need Sonic to save them from that robot. That would have been predictable. Oh, and then a lava level. Never seen that before. Lava reef zone. And it's got ancient ruins in it. Never seen that before. Well, at least combining the two is unique looking. I see Sonic crossing a bridge over water to get to it. But still, it's not explained that the reason the lava isn't killing Sonic from your convection is that it's draining his rings bit by bit and they're protecting him. But yeah, so far the story is still continuing the void of nothingness with lack of creativity. Showing me another area that I immediately want Sonic to leave in the dust. When I started reading the script, I didn't remember any of the areas of this issue. It makes the story forgettable when it's got the same settings and plot events as usual. I'm at least impressed that he did get to separate from his friends after he wanted to. But we already saw Sonic do this in the Genesis arc of Archie Sonic, where he ditched Sally for basically no reason. Sonic says he ought to take parkour lessons. That's not quite as good as actually showing him taking them. But at least it kinda tries to explain how he gets it later. Also, we saw him wall jumping in the Sonic 2 ripoff, so isn't that parkour already? Sonic complains that he's stuck because he can't progress upwards. And super conveniently, his friends all show up immediately despite how fast he is. I assumed that Sonic would run back the way he came and then find his friends. I didn't know they were that close to him. At least it saves us some time. Amy hugging him would have been more sweet if it wasn't from the side without him hugging back, which he did in Sonic X. Sonic ruffles Tails' hair as well. That's all sweet, but I wish Tails' eyes didn't look so bad. Where's the vertical oval part of his eyelids? He's never drawn like this with his eyes closed. Sonic sees Eggman's in the temple and a wall separating him from him. And they all waste time putting their hands together. I've seen that before too. So Amy hits Sonic in a spin dash form over to Knuckles, who hits him away while he's on the wall. And then Tails carries him up there while flying, having needed all that to happen beforehand because he couldn't fly all the way up there with Sonic weighing him down the whole time. And at least this is something that would never happen in a classic game. He says he'll carry Amy to Knuckles afterwards. That ancient ruins must be made out of the most heat-resistant natural material ever if the convection of the lava hasn't melted it. It looks like it's made of sand. They get threatened by spike walls and even comment on the fact that this has happened before. That's just what I would have said. Then a statue sends out a river of lava from its mouth, so I guess that's new. Wait, how's that possible without it melting or running out of lava? Probably chaos energy, and it's made out of the best materials ever. It just constantly spawns more lava. Tails has another smart person moment, mentioning Kelvin. And they all have the idea to attack the statue directly. They definitely have super strength if they can destroy a statue that can resist lava. And then it turns out Eggman was in it, so no wonder it was so great. Eggman runs away from Sonic successfully because he's not ready, and Sonic expects me to believe that he doesn't care, when he's clearly running slower than him on purpose, or else writing us garbage to force this. Seriously, he could have been the mecha in the first place. Sonic had no reason to move slower instead of just beating him up right away, like Snively said he beat him up, and getting rope and taking him down. That not happening has no excuse when he's the ruler of the world, not just Sonic's plaything like in the games. Also, Sonic stupidly tells Eggman not to apparently jump towards the lava, after everything he's done, which at least subtly explains why he didn't run towards him as fast as possible because that would kill him, and apparently values his life for no reason. Either that or he doesn't want Tails to be traumatized by seeing him kill himself. I'm glad Sonic running after Eggman was only one pain of frustration instead of dragging things out to multiple trying to be funny. Tails says it's getting too hot for him, so he and Amy have to take a break. But they can't be as hot as would be realistic, or they'd have died almost the instant they went towards lava. So apparently the rings aren't doing a good enough job protecting them, but are protecting them regardless. He's trying to have his cake and eat it too with the realism. Apparently Sonic and Knuckles don't have to take a break from the same heat because they're just that badass. It's considered a Sonic to tell these guys to take a break. Wasn't it nice of Eggman to not bother attacking the heroes and all the time they were talking and standing still? That's stupid when you think about it. At least it's charming to see Eggman in a mecha with a chef's hat and spatula. I've seen a robot with a chef's hat and spatula in one of the Sonic manga. But this is a mecha that Eggman's piloting. And not a remote-controlled chicken robot either. I'm sure Flint thought these things were original, because what are the chances he's read the manga and taken inspiration from it on purpose? Even though he prefers the Japanese side of Sonic. But it's still not that new, so maybe that's why I didn't feel like commenting on it right away. That, and I know it's just another mecha Sonic will beat effortlessly. There's been so many boss fights crammed into these two stories that none have lasted long enough to not take me out of it, so who cares about this thing? Sonic jumps onto and off the spatula, and he and Knuckles attack the mecha. Again, beating it without it getting a chance to land a single hit on any of them. That's not the kind of thing that makes it feel like a real game story, because in an actual game, it would take a while because you'd inevitably get hit by the bosses. I can understand Sonic never getting hit because he's just that fast. So it would be annoying unless he had a very good reason to be distracted. But what about the others? So they immediately get the MacGuffin gear from that dangerous looking mecha after just a few hits at best. Then Metal Sonic runs past Knuckles and knocks him over, and hits away Tails. I'm thinking that logically him punching Tails would kill him in one hit because it's at Sonic's speed, and he has no reason to hold back. But thankfully this is a franchise with rings in it, so I can just assume rings protected him. Metal Sonic takes the gears and then predictably kidnaps Amy, because that idea hasn't been done enough. Is there any original idea in this story? Aside from it being a mecha and not a remote-controlled robot earlier, I can't think of any original ideas anymore. That's pathetic. That's a perfect sample for the reboot. If I think about the reboot, I can't remember a bunch of panels from it on command, like with every other continuity. I only think about one thing, and then lose interest. The planet getting put back together. Meanwhile, the preboot has too much to say about it. At least Sonic foreshadowed Amy getting kidnapped. In the opposite direction, he said that she won't get kidnapped again because she's with him. It was nice of Sonic to ask Tails how badly he's hurt. Why are they wasting time talking after this point? I assume they keep going after Amy instead of letting Metal Sonic get away. It's news to them when Tails tells him that they can locate where Metal Sonic is through a convenient radar in the biplane. So he figures out that their base must be somewhere based on the direction they went in. And Sonic just now realizes how smart he is. Was this seriously the first time he's ever seen this device on this plane? So Sonic pets Tails' head as Tails' eyes look awful. They fly the plane towards Eggman's newest flying base. I've seen this idea before too. Sky Deck, Flying Fortress, Wing Fortress. What was the point of even reading this issue? Too bad there wasn't enough room in the previous issue for this finale part, which could have easily taken place in an earlier area for how little the setting mattered. They could have put the lava region in an earlier place and removed Knuckles' embarrassing interaction with Sonic to make room for this. Sonic compares this thing to previous flying bases. If the writer knows this has been done before, pointing it out just makes it even more boring. It would have actually been interesting instead of pathetic if Eggman's final base was just the underground lava area. Since when does that happen in Sonic? Amy only got kidnapped to pad out the issue. The story could have ended without that, and had the final fight after this take place in the lava area. Then they have to fight Badniks in the air above the biplane. I've seen this too. Oh, but Knuckles is here this time. How exhausting for the writer to come up with. I bet that took him all day. Anyone can put new characters in old situations. How about Ixis is working as a fry cook? I ought to have a counter of all the reuse ideas in this arc, but I don't care enough to do that. It's absolutely unacceptable that I'm seeing all of this. It's just boring. I naturally assumed that they'd land the plane on the flying base right away. Nothing like a complete lack of creativity to collapse my interest and make me desperate for the forgettable story to be over. I'm so bored. Okay, I like seeing that Tails and Knuckles were moving a lever up and down to make something move with them up in the air. But if that was all we were gonna see of the so-called level, which I'm not even sure it has a name, then what was the point? Why did he show all of that stuff outside it? Nobody liked that level in Sonic 2. I'd rather see them be inside it and see the entirety of them getting to Metal Sonic. Instead, I feel like I missed a lot of stuff, which gets me detached because of narrative-damaging time skips. You'd think Sonic would have reached Metal Sonic basically instantly and left his friends in the dust instead of them being right next to him. Maybe he has to move slower because the base can't be that big. Oh good, it's explained that Amy's hammer can't break what she's trapped in. Eggman tells them that he'll give Amy back if they give him the last ancient gear. What makes them think he's not lying? I guess they have to trust him out of desperation. Knuckles whispers that he thought there were 7 and says the Metal Sonic only took 5 gears from him. So Sonic says confidently that he gets Amy and plays Eggman for a chump. How is Eggman the chump when he's obviously not going to let Amy go unless he's a complete idiot? Or that much of a softie. He doesn't, and Metal Sonic threatens him, powering himself because he's got the 7th gear. In the dark lighting, he looks intimidating for someone who's about to lose. He looked giant there, but now it's clear that he's the same size as Sonic, so never mind. He kicks Sonic away, not that we see his foot impact him. Then Sonic spin dashes at him, but ends up being thrown into the floor, sending dust up and looking hurt as Metal Sonic was fast enough to hit him away. I guess he's made of really tough metal. So Metal's faster than Sonic now, which is why this is more interesting than Sonic just homie attacking him a bunch. Oh, but right after Metal was intimidating, he gets surprise attacked and ganged up on by Sonic's friends, which at least makes sense because he was distracted as Sonic. And it would make no sense for them to have done nothing when Sonic was getting pummeled, which would have let us see a longer fight scene. But there's not much room for an interesting creative fight between two people who've already fought before with almost all the same abilities. Didn't I already see Metal Sonic as the final boss like this at the end of Sonic Mania Adventures? At least he powered up with something new this time, even if it's just a weaker version of an emerald. I wouldn't be feeling sorry for Metal Sonic right now if he got to have a long enough fight with Sonic. Maybe Tails and Knuckles could have been suddenly trapped in metal restraints and taken a while to break free of them. Metal Sonic being spin dashed at by Tails, Sonic, and Knuckles has been done before in Archie. At least he didn't kill him in one hit this time. But it still forced him to fly away through the ceiling. So it ended the fight instantly anyways. And then we see a blue blur go through the animal capsule, and we see Amy being caught by Sonic, as she once again has her hands over her eyes. There's a point where there's too many references, where it seems like the writer put no effort into coming up with stuff on his own, and just chose which order to put the new ideas in. He could have decided which order to put the levels in by flipping a coin for all that matters. Their stories were that disconnected from each other. What does it matter where Knuckles met up with Sonic? Her having her hands over her eyes and being scared contrasts with her being badass with a hammer, just like her screaming at the gardener robot does. Where no wonder I was surprised that she had a hammer and wasn't just kidding herself when she said she wasn't helpless. But it makes sense that she wouldn't be completely badass right away. Sonic asks Amy if she's okay, and she stupidly says out loud that if she says she is okay, he'll put her down. So this causes them to rudely drop her like she's Sally dropping Antoine in a cave. That's been done before too. Antoine even flirted to cause this. Like her. Knuckles tells everyone that Eggman still has all the gears. And Tails says that according to the database, he's got a deep sea base directly under here. And this airship is only for supply shipments. Well, Sonic's afraid of water, no wonder it's a sea base. So the story isn't over yet? Why did he have that data right there? With no password. I guess he didn't expect Metal Sonic to lose. It caught me off guard that Sonic told Knuckles he needed to have a plan first, but at least it's interesting that he says this. Sonic says that it was already hard to beat Metal Sonic with one gear in him, so Tails says they need to find the Chaos Emeralds, because Super Sonic could beat the Mega Drive just fine. Sonic lampshades that they do have a habit of showing up when they need them, but this doesn't explain why they're where they want them in every single game, but apparently it's just a coincidence, because if they were sentient and intentionally going to where they'd be needed, then the heroes wouldn't have had to take forever to find every emerald in the Unleashed arc, because they'd find all of them in one place really close to them. Then he reveals out of complete and utter nowhere that he was expecting them all to be on the Eastwatch Islands and not with the Freedom Fighters where we last saw them. I thought the whole reason the story was focusing on ancient gears out of nowhere was because almost all of the emeralds were already found and were kept with Sally. Maybe this wouldn't be so confusing if we got to see the end of the Sonic 2 and 3 stories and see all of the emeralds scatter. Instead, my brain's still in Sonic 3 hasn't happened yet mode. If the emeralds were on the Eastwatch Islands the whole time, it was pretty inconvenient that none of them ever found them and all the time they're in the levels. But to be fair, they were rushing through the place the first time. Missing the emeralds for that reason is pretty common in the Game Gear games, so I understand. But this is such obvious, cheap padding. They could have easily been written to have stumbled into all the emeralds on the way here. And that's the end of the issue. It advertises another issue after this. An issue that never came out. That's what happens when you have a writer who doesn't know how to keep the pacing fast, who doesn't know how to end things. It was so obvious that the story could have ended with Metal Sonic's defeat. And maybe I expected that because usually Sonic comic stories don't last more than 28 pages. But this one did, and it wasn't worth it. The heroes could have easily found all the emeralds on the islands on the way here, so the issue would have been mostly padding that didn't need to exist anyways, where they run around finding emeralds. Or knowing this writer, they'd stand around and talk to each other and walk into the emeralds. And then Sonic and his friends would fight a mecha with the same predictable attacks they always use, and win almost immediately. That's the problem with unoriginal writing. I already know what the entire plot is going to be, so we miss nothing but dialogue. But he already had a mecha without the gears. Why would he need the gears? Eggman's robots would have found the emeralds at this point because the heroes weren't even trying to look for them. I guess he wasn't in the places nearly long enough. This story was by Ian Flynn and was so uncreative that it was hard to remember. None of its areas felt very creative. If every single area was unique enough, or even half of them, this arc would have been great. But instead, the story was merely alright. And by the time I saw them on the way to Flying Fortress 2, I got impatient, because it was uncreative. I got bored enough to be desperate for the story to end. They could have just landed the plane right away. I never saw ancient ruins combined with a lava area before, where a statue spits out lava. Wow, one panel. I was impressed that Sonic needed Amy and Knuckles' help launching him upwards to get high enough to get over the wall. But oh wait. Didn't that kind of thing already happen in the Sonic X comic? And in the Egg Phoenix fight before issue 200? Only the setting was different. At least I haven't seen a haunted cave before, where Eggman's drilling machine gets stopped by a boulder right away. But who writes a haunted level without any ghosts showing up? Twice! I wanted to see a new story when I read this issue. And for the most part, I feel like I didn't get a new story. Because there's nothing more forgettable than repeating ideas you've seen before over and over again. The only things new were a few scattered moments that could have easily not been written. Tails is already a magical fox. I could have easily bought him flying his friends over their ruins without Amy and Knuckles being needed to do all this. Sonic Mania is a creative masterpiece compared to the story, because it had multiple original areas, not just one, which is a sixth of the amount that I expected. What's going to stand out about the story? The chef's hat? Nope. Eggman's had tons of comedic looking mechas before, and that was basically it when it comes to originality here. Boss fights were crammed into the story, but it lasted like 2 seconds each, so they're not boss fights. Well, we barely saw the heroes progress through the levels. So it was like we were missing most of the story because of time skips. Either that or that little actually happened. At the very least, I was impressed by the Metal Sonic fight, because it actually made sense. He gave Sonic trouble. But it should have just ended there. And if the emeralds had any chance of being on the islands the whole time, there was no excuse for not writing the heroes to have all the emeralds at this point.